Well, in recognition of the role of the Nigerian private sector in the realization of the socio-economic objectives of the country, the President, Muhammadu Buhari, met with delegation from the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry last week, who paid him a courtesy visit. Now, the meeting provided an opportunity for the group to present before the President some of the challenges and constraints businesses are faced with, and of course, seek for a lasting solution. I'm now being joined by the Director General, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Muda Yusuf, to tell us more about this meeting and what the outcome is. Good morning, Mr. Yusuf. Thank you very much for joining us. So this visit, what's the reason for this visit? What's motivated?
Now, the reason for the visit is to further strengthen public-private dialogue. Because what we find is that some of the challenges we face in the business environment arise from the fact that there is no sufficient information and no sufficient feedback from the private sector to the policymakers, and more importantly, from the private sector to the political leadership. Of course, a lot is already happening in terms of engagement.
Yeah, because I know the Vice President has been engaging with some of you guys.
Yes. We have quarterly meeting. There's engagement at the ministerial level. There are engagements at the state level. But sometimes you need to also escalate some issues. Okay. So, and we feel that if you have this opportunity, which we also really appreciate, to engage at the highest level of the political leadership, it will go a long way in also advancing the cause of the ease of doing business. Because in matters like this, you need all hands to be on deck. Because if you are talking about creating jobs in an economy, if you are talking about economic diversification, if you are talking about raising revenue, the private sector and investors are at the center of all of this. So if things are not going well with the private sector or with investors, it will affect a whole lot of things, even beyond economics. It will affect the social condition. It will even affect security of lives and property, because all these things are related. So what we have done is just to strengthen the public-private dialogue and bring the President's attention to some very critical issues.
And what are these issues that you brought to his notice this time around?
Now, the most critical is the Apapa gridlock. Now, we have been grappling with this problem for over a year now. And the situation is becoming increasingly unbearable. Even large companies are suffering. Big companies like flour mills, like Dangote, they are suffering in a big way. And they are suffering losses. Most of the SMEs have practically gone down completely. The only thriving business in that axis now is possibly the Okada business. Practically all business, those who have properties there, the value had gone down considerably. Those who have factories, they can't get in, they can't get out. So it has practically crippled all the business in that axis. And there's a company, a big company, because of this gridlock, had incurred demurrage of about 13 billion naira, which he had to pay. Because the terminal operators, they don't want to know what is the cost of the delay for you not to move your cargo out of the port. Even though it's not your own making, you pay the price for it. So the longer your cargo stays, the higher the charges you pay. The same thing with shipping companies. Because the turnaround time now is so low that you come in, you cannot discharge because there is no space for you to discharge. So the shipping companies and the importers also pay heavily to the vessels that come into the country, because the longer you keep the vessels, the more the charges you pay.
No, but you know? I think the Vice President had visited that place some time ago. Does it mean that since his visit, nothing significant has happened?
Well, there was a momentary improvement in terms of getting the trucks away and all of that. But it was only momentary. The situation now is even worse now than that time.
Why?
It's because the whole infrastructure as well. Now, there is a private sector component in fixing the infrastructure.
Yes, because I know Dangote and Flour Mill.
Dangote, Flour Mill, and NPA, together they fix the wharf road.
Okay.
You know, as part of their own contribution to this. But the road between Tinkan and Mile 2, for all the trucks coming out from Tinkan, is impassable.
Whose responsibility?
It is the federal government.
Yeah.
It's the federal government. And that is why we want to emphasize, and that is what we told the president, that this thing requires an emergency response. It's an economic emergency. Because the Apapa axis is at the heart of this economy. Almost 80% of the imports that comes into this country come from between Apapa Port and Tinkan Island Port. So when you have a total paralysis of that axis, you practically paralyze the entire economy. So it is the responsibility of the federal government to fix this road between Tinkan and Mile 2. All the portions are bad, and in an attempt for some of these trucks to bypass, a lot of containers are falling. Sometimes lives are lost. And the other end of it, that is the Ijora end. There is a bridge there which has been closed for almost 7 months. There is the bridge linking the Levante side to Ijora side. There are some defects. So trucks cannot even pass. So the little exit, the exit road or the service lane that is there is what a lot of trucks are, and that also has deteriorated. So it was practically crippled. I mean, a company was telling me how normally they pay about almost 30 billion naira in terms of corporate tax when things were good. But the way things are going, there's no way they can even pay up to 5 billion. Because the profit margin has reduced, the turnover has reduced, because they can't just move in and out of the place. And how do you run a business when you cannot get your goods or whatever to your customer? Or when you cannot get your raw materials from the ports to your factory? So it's not just a Lagos issue, it's not just an Apapa issue, it's a national issue.
And what was the president's response to this?
Well, the response was positive because the meeting had in attendance the topmost hierarchy in government. The president was there, which we appreciate because it's also an appreciation of the fact that the private sector is key to the realization of government objective itself. The chief of staff was there, the secretary to government was there, and we had about 5 ministers. So he gave assurance that something will be done. But again, it's still an assurance. So we are hoping
something
that...
will be done when?
Well,
after the election?
Not after the election. Okay. Because this is an emergency. So the impression we have that something will be done immediately. And that is the impression, that is what he said. And we believe that something will happen
now
to remove this gridlock in Apapa.
Now, from your own perspective, what do you think should be the long-term solution to this Apapa problem?
Well, just as I said, there is a short term, which is fixing the bridge, the Ijora bridge, so at least trucks can move easily out of the Apapa exit. Fixing the road between Tinkan and Mile 2. That is a short-term solution, which I think is not beyond the government to fix. Medium to long term, we need to fix our pipelines so that we don't see these trucks going to Apapa, going to Tinkan, going to all these places to load fuel. We have depots around the country. The essence of pipeline, and that is the cheapest means of transportation of liquid products. And we have all these pipelines. But because of maintenance issues, because of vandalization issues, some of these pipelines have broken down. So we need to fix the pipelines. I mean, we have a government. And the essence of a government is to fix some of these things. We cannot allow major infrastructures to collapse completely. So if the pipelines are fixed, then we can move some of these products through the pipelines to the various depots around the country. And that will disperse. Then we need to fix our refineries. It is embarrassing that as an oil-producing country, we still import so much of petroleum products into this country. If the refineries were working, we have refineries in Kaduna. Trucks don't have business coming from the north to come and load fuel in Lagos. They can just go to the Kaduna refinery and all the depots around the north and load their products. We have refineries in Port Harcourt, in Warri, and all of that. These refineries have not been functioning. So that is also a major issue. There are all sorts of reform issues around that.
Now,
we also have a rail system.
With Dangote refinery, coming on board, do you think that can actually help?
Well, it will help, but Dangote refinery is in Lagos. We are talking about supplying the entire country. We don't want a situation again where all the trucks again will now converge at Lekki axis. Again, all this pipeline infrastructure are also critical. So that if the products are refined there, they can be pumped to different parts of the country. Yeah. So these are very fundamental issues.
All right. You also raised the issue of oil and gas sector reform with the president. What are your concerns in that area?
The concerns about the oil and gas sector reform is that the reform in that space has been extremely slow. And oil and gas sector has the capacity to attract huge investment into this economy. Although we talk about diversification, but that sector also presents the best opportunities to attract investment and to bring in capital, and to also generate revenue to further diversify the economy and invest in infrastructure. But there's a lot of regulatory problems there. And the whole thing was supposed to have been dealt with by the Petroleum Industry Bill. This bill has been in and out of the National Assembly for over 15 years. And we have thought that under this regime, we see an expeditious passage and action on that bill. That has not happened. So it was one of the concerns we raised with the president, that we want proper immediate reform in the oil and gas sector so that investors can feel more comfortable coming into this economy to invest in the sector. And we have other issues about unnecessary levies on oil producing companies. Now we have a proposal from NPA, Nigerian Port Authority, to levy $1 per barrel on all the oil that is produced by the oil producing companies. I mean, why do we have to do that?
Okay, so
we already have taxes and things that
what was the president's response to this oil and gas sector reform? Did he also assure that the PIB will be passed?
There was no definite response on that. But at the end of the meeting, he assured us that we can relate with the relevant ministers and this will be pushed ahead. But we have to sustain the momentum of advocacy on all of these things, and that is what we plan to do.
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much for your time, Mr.
Thank you.
Muda.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
I've been speaking to Mr. Muda Yusuf, the Director General, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry.